My first time doing anything like this. This is my first time doing anything like this. So I'm just winging it, I guess. So I'm just trying to figure out what I'm particularly good at doing this. So I figured, what better way to know somebody than list their favorite things? So, my favorite things. Books. My favorite classic book is probably The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is actually more thrilling than I thought it would be, especially the last 100 pages, which I did put down and read incredibly quickly. How quickly? I don't remember. I read it a while ago and I was thoroughly impressed, and I wish that Hollywood would do a contemporary, not a contemporary version of it, but just make the movie, like a new movie about it, and make it strictly following the book, which is incredibly more tragic and sad than what you find in Disney, of course, but that's coming from the guy who wrote Les Miserables. Yeah. So anyways, that's my favorite classic, probably off the top of my head. My first classic that I probably fell in love with was A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. My favorite contemporary book out of, I don't know, what I've read so far. I read a lot of Chuck Palahniuk, but my favorite contemporary book probably is A Long Way Down by Nick Hornby, which is a pretty good book. It's got 4 different lead characters that you throw them between chapters, and then they all plan on committing suicide, and things happen, and then the books, they start intervening in each other's lives, and it's really good because they all have such distinct voices that it's really cool, because he was able to write all those voices, different voices for each person. So then that's one of my favorite ones, and which is actually being made into a movie, which comes out, I don't know when. I was following it. It's got Aaron Paul in it, Toni Collette, and Pierce Brosnan were in it, and I believe it's on filming, so that comes out sometime. I don't know when. So anyways, there's that, and then, okay, so those are my favorite books, classic and contemporary, I guess. So then you go to, let's see, video games. I play video games. I'm not ashamed to say it. I do it. I play them sometimes too much, sometimes not enough, sometimes I don't know. Anyway, so I play them. My favorite game probably Super Mario Brothers 3, which I could play if I Desert Island, stuck somewhere, have one system to choose from, have one game to choose from. I would probably choose Nintendo, and NES, and Super Mario Brothers 3, because I can play that game 10 times. There's tons of different ways to do it. You can collect all the coins, you can try to get whatever. It's good. You can replay it, and it's amazing, and it's from 1988, which was the year I was born. I believe it's from 1988. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't double check that on the internet or anything, which I'm on the internet, so I should just check it, but I didn't. So, there's that, and then, let's see. I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy series, but my favorite one is Final Fantasy VIII over most of them. That's the first one that I actually played and beat. But every time I play Final Fantasy, I play through it and I get to the last boss, or close to the last boss, and then I have to restart because my level's not high enough, because I was trying to rush through the story and everything. So eventually I find myself at the end of a 30, 50 hour game, and I go back and start over, which has happened with, I think, 10 also. But yeah, 8 is my favorite, and a lot of people don't like it because they think the love story is cheesy or whatever, but honestly, I like the plot flow. It flows really well, and I think it'd make a really good trilogy of movies if they ever did it. I mean, you'd have to tone down some of the stuff, but if they ever made a movie version of a Final Fantasy game, that would be the one to do, because it's set up so it's streamlined almost. There's backstory, which kind of gets a little weird and maybe a little dumb to some people, but I like it, and it's good. And then I like The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, of course. That's one of my other favorites. Let's see, Half-Life 2. Which, whenever Half-Life 3 comes out, who knows? That Half-Life 2 is one of my favorite games. Movies. Movies. I am a big movie fanatic. Didn't become a big movie fanatic until I was in high school, about maybe junior year, maybe sophomore year. But that's what I was known for. Everybody's like, "Yeah, Aaron's the movie guy." People used to call me Aaron Tarantino and stuff. Name that stuck, and I don't know, because I really got into Tarantino movies, so I was into Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown and all that stuff when I was in high school. I still like them, but I'm not they're not on the list of my favorite movies like they used to be. My favorite movie of all time probably is Magnolia, and that's a kind of, I don't know if most people would throw that as their first choice, but it's literally a movie that I can come back to, and it's so well done, and the acting is crazy, maybe over the top sometimes, but it's so good, and everybody just goes for broke in that movie, and it's amazing. And there's just so much plot, and just the camera work is like amazing. There's a lot of like tracking shots in that movie where you just it's brilliant. And each time I watch it, I'm suddenly finding myself more sympathetic to a different character than I was the first time. So like that's really cool. So I don't know. Um, and then The Aviator. It's kind of a toss up between Magnolia and The Aviator. I love The Aviator. If there ever was an Oscar snub, it was for Leonardo DiCaprio in The Aviator, because that movie is amazing. I'm a big Martin Scorsese fan. I always see whatever movie comes out of his, and I'm really looking forward to his next one. If it comes out, I heard it was delayed or something. Wolf of Wall Street. If you haven't seen the trailer for it, watch the trailer. Looks great. Anyways, so those are some of my favorite things. And I think of something else. My favorite color is blue and black. I mean, if you really want to know that. I mean, we're not trying to get to know each other. This isn't like a dating site. I'm going to tell you all the things that I know, and then you're going to tell me, and then we'll see if this works. You know, I'm just going to say what I say, and then you don't have to listen if you don't want to. So, think of something else to talk about here real quick. The summer of movies was kind of disappointing. Like a lot of the big ones, like Star Trek, Into Darkness, and Iron Man 3, I kind of didn't really like. I was disappointed. I mean, I liked them. Like, they made me laugh. They were good blockbuster movies. Like, they were good, well put together. They just were disappointing. And then the movies that, like, were, like, panned by critics or weren't seen as very good by critics, they didn't do very well at the box office necessarily in the United States anyways, were the ones that I loved. Pacific Rim and Lone Ranger was probably the best movie of the summer. I mean, I'm a big fan of like Indiana Jones and stuff, and I can go back and watch the original trilogy and still be thrilled and like in awe of the action in those movies, because it was like all done on like physical sets and stuff, for the most part, models and all that good stuff. Like, it's brilliant. That's why I like Lone Ranger, because there's so much like crazy action in that. And it was mostly done for real, like on like sets, or there was like probably like life models. But anyways, there's something about live action sequences that really gives them a better sense of urgency, as opposed to like a bunch of CGI heavy stuff. And I thought that movie was really well done. And I was surprised too, because a lot of people like the Pirates movies, and it's pretty much the Pirates of the Caribbean in the desert. But I thought it was better than Pirates of the Caribbean, actually, because I thought the storyline was a little bit better. It was a little bit crazy, but it was still good. It was a good popcorn movie, and it was like well made and stuff. And Gore Verbinski totally gets like kind of as a Michael Bay clone. I guess they kind of like a lot of, I've heard that thrown around a little bit, but he's not. He's good. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, Lone Ranger was probably the best movie this summer. Pacific Rim was one of those movies that met my expectations. It wasn't like amazing, but it met my expectations, and I loved it for that. It had this childhood, like this little boy inside me who was like, yes, this movie is great. Look at the giant robots and the funny dialogue and the cliches. It was so full of cliches, and people claim that's a bad thing, but I don't think so. I think, cliches can be fine if, like, it's knowingly that way. I feel like that movie was purposely cliched. It was an homage or something. It was in honor of, like, all these big giant robot movies and monster movies that came before it, like the classics. And it was great. It was well put together. The pacing was good. It looked cool. Like, I don't understand all the hate for that one either, because it wasn't a Transformers clone. I mean, it had more heart to it, and it was just fun. Why can't things just be fun? Anyways, this movie. Yeah, I'm in a movie. This is a movie, folks, if you didn't realize. This video is almost 9 minutes long, so I'm going to cut it short right there, and I guess I'm new on here, and I'll be around, I guess. So, there's my first video, and it's a little bit long, but there you go. See you in a few days, probably. Later.